The word I have at this point is yes, yes, we're going. The question at this point is how many of us are going. Now listen. We are assuming, I am assuming, the whole band is going to make this trip. But in order to do that, people, the budget is $107,000, of which they have raised to date $45,000.
The people and the enthusiasm. These are the key ingredients for what some say is one of the top college marching bands in the country today, and the heritage and tradition they have upheld for 77 years. The song, of course, is synonymous with its alma mater. Most of the 281 band members spend about 10 hours a week just practicing, and practicing, and practicing. And here's Gene Thrillkill, their leader, and some say the spiritual guidance behind the band's most recent success.
This is probably going to be one of the hardest years we've ever had because we've got 7 games in a row. And that's not going to be easy because we're going to have to change the show. All of a sudden, the USC trip is thrown at us. We have to do a new show that we had not planned on before because we can't repeat the same one at Texas, which is going to be on television. Of course, you're talking to someone that's very prejudiced because it's something that's very dear to my heart. But I think the Oklahoma band has a tremendous tradition, not only here in Oklahoma, but throughout the nation. I think people don't understand how well they represent not only this university and our 100,000 alumni and our many band alumni, but just how they represent the state of Oklahoma. When you march down the street in Miami on Biscayne Boulevard at the parade, or when we march down the USC campus to the stadium, when you play Oklahoma, they don't have to wonder where you're from. And I think we have a band that everybody respects.
Keith Albert, Action 4 in Norman.
In order to bring service back into Oklahoma City and several other cities just like us, we had to eliminate and cancel less productive cities. We terminated our service, or will be terminating our service, into and out of Phoenix, Tucson, Salt Lake City, Boston, Albany, and Hartford.
Proposed energy building site. East of the traditional university campus on a site which is now, have JAHNKE talk about specifically the effects on. We feel that when the University of Oklahoma can move into a residential neighborhood in an area that is zoned residential by the city of Norman and build structures like parking lots, $30 million public buildings, even chemical storage buildings or anything that they want, that the people who are going to be affected and who are a reasonable distance from this site should be afforded an opportunity to have notice and a hearing. Consequently, since this is not the case, the University of Oklahoma does not have to hold hearings when they move into a residential neighborhood.
As another holiday weekend approaches, travel across the state's highways will be heavier than usual. Unlike 2 summers ago, motorists should find plenty of gasoline available. Statewide, surveys show 60% of the stations plan to be open on Labor Day. In the Oklahoma City metro area, 41% of the stations will have gasoline for sale, and in Tulsa, the odds are even better. 56% of those stations plan to be open. Along with the availability of gasoline is some more good news for travelers in the local area. A AAA survey shows that unleaded gasoline has dropped over 3 cents per gallon since the 4th of July. That dip is, however, for gas you pump yourself. Maybe someday soon, worries at the gas pump will be over. Synthetic fuel research is opening up a whole new ballpark, and players across the nation are getting in the game. Carol Lambert, Action 4.
Unless someone intervenes, 1/2 hour after midnight on September 14th, Thomas Sonny Hayes will be the country's first convicted murderer to die by lethal injection. Hayes has told his court-appointed attorney to drop his death sentence appeal, and late last week, the State Court of Criminal Appeals cleared the way for the execution.
While Oklahomans across the state were barbecuing beef today, these people were cutting it. For the people who work the first Monday of September, Labor Day is just another Monday, 1 out of 52 every year. But it's supposed to be a day to honor the working man. Well, how does the laborer feel? And where have his years of labor put him?
We don't have extravagant living habits, but we live pretty much the way we want to. We eat what we want to, and that's about all you're going to get anyway.
Well, it's pretty hard, you know, to get by nowadays, inflation and everything else, but I think it'll get better.
Do you think things will get worse or better?
I think they'll get better. I really do. For one thing, I think people will eventually get more raises and stuff where we'll recognize, you know, it won't be like you're just surviving. I've got faith in us.
Things right now are more or less on a downturn, but I do look forward to pick up and increase, you know. It always has.
I think the taxes and stuff like that's eating the people up. It seems the more you make, the more they're taking out. And it's kind of putting a damper on everything right now.
One minute you feel like you're catching up, and then, you know, you got a new problem tomorrow, you know. So I still feel like it's a struggle.
The little man going down, the big man going up. Big man getting all the money, and the little man doing all the work.
Charles Schnitzer, Action 4.
Normally a quiet community, Piedmont was the scene of some activity this morning, but about 90% of its residents probably never knew what was going on. There was an all-points bulletin put out for some escaped convicts.
I came in the station this morning. I'd got a report that there was 3 men that had escaped from prison and said they was en route to Piedmont, Oklahoma. About 30 minutes later, we got another call and said that it was not Piedmont, Oklahoma, that it was Piedmont, Missouri.
Piedmont is a thriving metropolis, a growing community, a boom town. In fact, this city has its own car wash, its own police department, even a restaurant. Everybody here knows everybody else. So the first thing law enforcement officials were wondering, why in the world would escaped convicts be heading here? Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Piedmont. or should I say Piedmont, Oklahoma.
The kind of action that is required by statute in order to legal, and we served summons as required by law on the city of Moore and by the tax assessor rolls. So the notice of
Oklahoma, and especially for the older people of Moore. I am President. I, for one, and I think there's a lot of older people and a lot of younger people that's got fathers and mothers and grandmothers, do not want a reserved person coming to rescue their loved ones, whether they be young or old, from a burning structure. This is especially true at the rest homes of the apartments. These things here, it is of vital importance to the older people of Oklahoma.
Mr. Mayor, we had a question here. Who seconded the motion a minute ago?
I'm outraged.
Why?
Well, the citizens come in, they go into city council, they listen to what the council has to present. And then we stand up and listen to this and we try to tell them that we don't want this. And they just flat turn their backs on us. And don't feel that's right. When the citizens are speaking out with petitions and by attendance, what more can you ask for?
We will meet with the leadership of the Board of Education of Edmond Schools regrets that the EACT failed to ratify the contract for 1981-82 tentatively agreed to at the bargaining table. It is the opinion of the board that the contract was a fair and competitive offer that displays a willingness to bargain and compromise on negotiable issues, and one that ranks favorably with teacher agreements throughout the state. There is unanimous agreement among the members of the board that to extend the financial burdens of the district at the present time would not be fiscally prudent or sound financial management.
One by one, major distillers have pulled out of Oklahoma. They're complaining that local wholesalers are undercutting the prices they charge in other states. But according to Oklahoma law, that's legal.
Oh, okay.
To protest that, Hiram Walker, Buckingham, Paddington, and of course Seagram's have decided they won't sell their wares in Oklahoma. To date, there's been the worry that Hubline will follow suit, but according to sources, they've no intention of deserting Oklahoma buyers. Some lawmakers claim the withdrawal of major distributors is depriving the state of tax revenues and citizens of goods. In hopes to turn around the chain of events, Attorney General Jan Cartwright has filed an appeal with the state Supreme Court on behalf of the ABC Board, asking that distillers not be required to sell their products to Oklahoma wholesalers who will then sell them out of state. Unless an oral argument is granted, the appeal may follow the normal written procedure, and that could take up to several months.
In that case, Oklahoma wholesalers, retailers, and consumers will be left high and dry. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the state capitol.
Well, about 12:20 a.m. this morning, Noel police officer Tim Pendergraft stopped a vehicle here on 59 Highway here in Noel. 3 subjects jumped out of the car and ran in the southern direction. He checked this subject out that was in the vehicle, and he was taken hostage this morning in Aurora, Missouri. And we have confirmed that these subjects that did take him hostage are the 3 escapees from Lansing, Kansas prison.
Went in the front room. One guy searched my house for guns. I told him I ain't got no guns in the house. And went in the front room, sat down, and he made my wife make breakfast. In the meantime,
58 of Midwest City's 62 sanitation workers gathered outside City Hall today. They were waiting to speak with the city manager individually about their employment situation with Midwest City. The feeling among the group was the workers still would like the city to recognize them as a union. Most of the time was just spent waiting, which the workers perceive as a scare tactic. Some were fired, and the ones who weren't fired say they won't go back to work without the others. One man who normally works for the Parks Department says he is being fired for not filling in for sanitation workers.
When they did leave, they came in and asked for volunteers. No one volunteered. They then started asking people if they were going to either drive or pull the garbage. It came down to John Mount Pleasant here. He said, "What are the consequences if I don't do this?" And they said you would be suspended without pay until further notice. At that time, I stood up and informed that I suppose I'm suspended without pay.
He called me up there and said since I didn't go to work Friday that I would be put on a year probation. He wanted me to sign it and I refused, so he wrote up my termination papers.
While the 50 or so sanitation workers were at City Hall trying to find out their future with Midwest City, other city employees from different departments were called in to run the garbage trucks and collect trash. And the trucks are rolling out on schedule. City officials expect there will be pickup delays in some areas, but say the trash will be picked up no matter what the final outcome is with the city sanitation workers. Ed Stewart, Action 4, Midwest City.
The controversy began last Tuesday night when the Moore City Council okayed a plan to supplement its firefighting force with reserve firemen. A number of Moore residents objected to the plan, claiming it would not provide adequate fire protection. But 4 of the councilmen voted for the reserve plan anyway. So 27 Moore residents submitted a petition today asking for a recall of those 4 councilmen.
And I think it's just flat made the people mad. I feel like, and others that have talked with me, feel like it's nothing more or less than just a slap in the face to 2,400 citizens of the city of Moore. They're just refusing to listen. And if they won't respond to the will of the people, then they shouldn't be there.
Organizers need about 400 more residents to sign the actual recall petition. If they get those signatures, then the vote on whether or not to keep those 4 councilmen could take place in about 90 days. Scott Wallace, Action 4 and more.
The list of liquor at retail stores keeps dwindling. A number of liquor companies interpreted a district judge's ruling as being unfavorable to them, and so they pulled their products out of Oklahoma. The opinion is being appealed to the state Supreme Court. But even if the court overturns the district judge's ruling, it'll be some time before the major brands come back to Oklahoma.
Then if they wanted their license back, of course, they'd have to file an application, and this would take not a great deal of time, but it would take some time administratively. And then they would have to get approval of the products they wanted to sell in Oklahoma, which could be done very quickly because we already have the necessary items that are required for brand registration.
It could be 6 months to a year before the case reaches the Supreme Court. In the meantime, sources speculate the pullouts are designed to put pressure on the legislature and the courts to change Oklahoma's liquor laws. Bella Shaw, Action 4.
The University of Oklahoma has lost popularity with some of its neighbors. Several homeowners who live in a 2-block area just east of the university are protesting what they call the OU land grab. The university says it needs the space to build a $30 million energy center. People who live in homes such as this one are quick to point out that the university currently has nearly 1 square mile of undeveloped land and is also the largest landowner in Norman.
A meeting was called this afternoon for an advisory university committee to vote on recommendation of the proposed site. During that time, Dr. Art Elbert tried to explain why that was the only area they could consider.
Those people who are going to put up millions and millions and millions of dollars want something that they can be proud of, something that they can look at, something that will have international implications and other things that they can really get behind and support. And they're not going to get behind and support something that you stick in the engineer's parking lot, and they're not going to get deeply into something that you're going to stick next to the physical plant building or tear down a couple of small buildings for. They're going to get excited about something that's on the front street of the campus. They're going to get excited about something that's a good architectural product and something that they can get behind and something that can be taken out and can be used to essentially raise money for.
Are you saying that it is essentially necessary for us to con the donors to this university? I think if people are going to give money to this university, they do it because they care about it. And
finally, the council did pass a motion which asks that the site for the new energy center be reasonably proximate to the College of Engineering. Dr. Elbert feels that action leaves the door open for the acquisition of the proposed area.
A note of interest, when a specific motion was brought before the council that would endorse the proposed 2-block area, which is bounded by Jenkins Street on the west, Boyd on the north, Trout on the east, and University Place on the south, it was defeated by the council. The motion that passed, however, as Dr. Elbert pointed out, does not exempt that particular area from becoming the home of the new energy center. Carol Lambert, Action 4 at the University of Oklahoma.
Over the past few months, a committee of lawmakers has met behind closed doors and scrutinized the operations of Dr. Frank James and his department. Dr. James has not been invited to attend those meetings, but the attention Dr. James is receiving brought some comment today from Governor Nigh. At his weekly press conference, the governor said he supports him and he thinks he's doing a good job. That, of course, was good news to Dr. James, who has felt pressure and criticism from every direction.
Well, I have been bothered some by the fact that just the one-sided criticisms have been released without actually getting recommendations to accompany them or a chance to maybe clarify some of the problems that have been identified. I think it would only be fair if for us to have that opportunity.
Tonight, the Mental Health Board will meet to approve contracts and a $71 million budget, things Dr. James has been criticized for. But at least today, he did pick up one plus in his favor, support from the governor. And when you're under fire, you need all the friends you can get. Bellashaw, Action 4 at the Mental Health Department.